Welcome to Deadly Dames, and this is part 2 of the Halloween challenge. So for this week, this is all the horror movies which I've seen. So we're starting off with Friend Request. Now, I actually really enjoyed Friend Request. I remember when I seen the advert for it, and it made it look like a really crap slasher film full of jump scares. And I couldn't be more wrong. I mean, there are parts of this movie that are not perfect. There are certainly parts of the movie that could have been a lot better, but on a whole, actually, this movie took me by surprise, because when I went in to see it, I really didn't expect it to be such an imaginative movie. So it sets up, I mean, the movie knows what it is. It knows that people think it's going to be a jump scare movie, and it sets that up right at the beginning, because you've got your lead character played by Alicia Denham Kearney, if I've said her name correctly, but it's the girl from The 100 and who plays Lexa, and the girl from the Fear the Walking Dead. But I actually really enjoyed her as the main character in this. I thought she was very believable as the type of girl who is nice and she's popular, but she's not the type of girl that's got popular because she's a bitch, pretty much, but she's believable as the innocent, I'm just naturally popular type person, and you do root for her in this, which I thought is a rarity in movies, because normally in a horror film you really don't give a crap about the cast, or the characters, and you just wait for them to die. But with her, I actually really did believe her, and it's the same as the girl who she befriends, because you do actually feel for her too. Because in the world, I mean, there are people like this main character who have so many friends that accepting another friend on Facebook, which is initially what this is trying to be, doesn't matter to them. And there are people in this world who have no friends, and when someone does accept them on Facebook or social media of any sort, it means the world to them. And that's essentially what this movie's about. But it does know what people think it's going to be, and it sets it up with that right at the beginning, because she's watching a video with a cute kitten that turns into a screaming face, and that's exactly what they're taking the mickey out in this movie, is that's what they expect horror films to be. I love that it ended up being about witchcraft, and hopefully that's not a spoiler for anyone, because I'm a big fan of movies that take a twist and it works. There are parts of this movie, like the possession of her friends and stuff, that I thought could have been a lot better. But the animation and the way that was done, going from the computer to reality back into computer, that was really seamless and really good. And I did actually really enjoy the ending of this movie as well. After Friend Request, I then watched The Witch, which, if you're a fan of torture porn movies or bloody violent movies, this is definitely not a film for you. This film is all about a family who are cast out from their village. So it's set back, I don't know what year you would say it was set in, but 1630 in New England. And they're cast out of their village because of their strong religious beliefs, and the fact that the family won't change their beliefs to be like the town that they're living in. So it's about them being isolated and setting up their own home, and all they have is each other, so the mum, the dad and the kids, and that's all they have. So they're very isolated in the wilderness. The movie's extremely atmospheric, and the soundtrack suits it perfectly. And I think that, I mean, there's violence in it, but there's not a lot of violence in it. It's mainly set up through paranoia and the feeling of being isolated and alone and having nobody else. And when the family starts to crumble, I mean, that becomes more apparent, because the more alone you become when the very little people that you have are no longer. But yeah, I love this movie, and there's certain scenes in it that just stick out, like the peekaboo scene with the baby. And again, hope I'm not spoiling anything for anybody. The witch's enchantment of the young boy, and obviously like the goat's like the scene with the dad and the goat. That's brilliant, and I love the ending. I thought the ending really suited the movie, and I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I thought it was perfect for the end of this film. I really, really enjoyed it. I've seen this movie maybe 4 or 5 times, and I could watch it that many times again, and more, because this movie is so good. I really can't wait to pick up the soundtrack, actually. I've been waiting for it to come out in vinyl, and it doesn't appear to be happening over here, so I think I might just have to pick up the CD. So after The Witch, I then took a chance with this movie. Now, I don't often buy full price movies that I've never really heard about before. I like to read about them in magazines or online, or take recommendations of friends or people on YouTube before I take a risk, because I had a really bad experience where I bought maybe 6-7 movies that all sounded and looked really good, and every single one of them was disappointing, and it cost too much money to take a risk like that. So I don't often do it, but I figured since it was Halloween, and the back of this cover, the storyline on the back of it really intrigued me. So basically it's about a group of friends who go to a cabin on an island, typical setup for any horror movie, and they're partying and they're getting drunk and they're smoking and they take cocaine. Only the cocaine is tainted, and it causes the people that take it to go rabid, to become like the zombies out of 28 Days Later, basically. But there's one girl who hasn't taken it, and it's her fighting against all of her closest friends and partner. So for survival, so to me that sounded like a really good idea. But the movie, in theory, there was some really great parts of it. Once the kids went rabid and all that, that was brilliant. And the actual initial opening to the movie was fantastic as well. So it opens with police officers responding to a disturbance call about loud music and going in and finding this scene of carnage with a lone survivor really badly hurt and them trying to find out what happened to her. I thought that was fantastic, and it really, really suited the opening of the scene. But the movie kind of spun into three parts. So it's got the survivor and the police officer trying to find out what happened to her, the kids in the cabin taking the cocaine and going rabid, and then it's got this other third part which it cuts to in between, where it's like people conducting experiments on people in bunkers, and it's obviously the people that have tainted the cocaine. Now, I think this movie would have worked so much better had they taken out the people in bunkers, just got rid of that, and just had that somebody's tainted it. You know, the end scene with the news, and I'm talking about a tainted cocaine that affects the neural system and makes you go rabid, and there's been cases reported everywhere. That was great. That's enough to explain what happened in the movie. You didn't need the rest of it. As I said, I think certain parts of the movie were really good, but as a whole, I don't think I would watch this movie again. There was just too much faffing about with different parts of the movie, and it's a shame really, because it was a good idea. But all in all, I definitely wouldn't watch it again. So it's definitely going into my trading pile. I then rewatched Green Inferno. Now, Eli Roth's Green Inferno gets a hard time. I thought it was excellent. It's not perfect. I mean, there's certainly parts of the movie that could have been better, but I liked it. I really, really liked it. And I mean, there's a particular scene in this movie that churns your stomach and will definitely stay with you, because the character that it happens to did not deserve it. He was a good guy, and I think that's the part that makes you go, this is a shame. Why him? What I liked about this movie is it did something that a lot of cannibal films don't do, and it portrayed the cannibals. It showed you the brutality of both the cannibals and the invading people taking over where they live. So, and I liked that, because these people that live, they're not all cannibals, but like, say for example, the cannibals that live in the forest, they're just trying to survive like anybody else. And yes, horrible things happen to these people that end up in their village, but horrible things only happen to them because they mistake them for the workmen that are actually knocking down the forest where they stay. And that's why the bad things happen. As I said, it's not perfect. There's a couple of scenes in which I didn't like, but there's certainly scenes in it which I love. And overall, I actually think this is the best Eli Roth movie. It's definitely the Eli Roth movie which I've seen more than any others, and I love it. I think it's a great movie. I then revisited Silver Bullet. Now, it's actually been years since I've seen Silver Bullet. I mean, so long. And I always remember it being kind of mediocre and not being particularly the best Stephen King adaptation, but revisiting it, I actually really enjoyed it. I mean, again, it's got the typical Stephen King things that people do in movies, you know, it's a kid or an adult telling the story of her being, or him being a child, and this movie's no different. It's obviously the sister when she's an adult telling the story about her and her brother fighting a werewolf. I think the casting choice for, is it Everett McGill for the actual Reverend, again, I hope I'm not spoiling anything for anybody, but is the wolf, perfect. I mean, he's the guy that's in People Under the Stairs and Twin Peaks. He's just a great actor. He was a perfect choice for this. I'm not a big Gary Busey fan, but he's okay in this, and the character that he's portraying a drunk uncle, so I mean, that's perfect for Gary Busey, really. But I really liked the brother-sister dynamic in this movie. They were believable as a brother and sister, and I liked that, because obviously they fought just like normal brothers and sisters do, but when it comes down to it, they do generally stick up for each other. And I thought the wolf transformations were actually pretty good, and for a 15, the blood that's in it's actually pretty gory, pretty good. I really liked the ending. It was cheesy, but it was cheesy, but it was enjoyable. And yeah, it was great to revisit Silver Bullet. I really did enjoy watching it again. Then I watched after getting this through from Arrow Video. In fact, I'll just move them out of the way and put this one at the bottom. The Burning. So it's been a long time since I've seen The Burning. Well, actually, it's not been that long, but it was an old Vipco edition that I watched, because there was no decent edition of The Burning here in the UK, and it was cut to pieces. So, you know, something that was amazing, actually being able to watch The Burning completely uncut. As far as I'm aware, I mean, it's certainly more uncut than the edition that I've seen before, because you get to see everything, like the kids on the canoes and, well, on the raft getting sliced and diced. But I love The Burning. It's a cheesy 80s movie. Obviously it does everything that most of these movies do. Most movies, if you notice, in the 80s start with a prank gone wrong, and that's kind of what happens in The Burning. It's a prank gone wrong, and he comes back to seek his revenge. I don't really like the main kind of bullied character that you kind of follow. He's a creep, let's face it. He spies on everybody, but you don't watch it for him. You watch it for people dying. So, which is enjoyable. I actually really did enjoy The Burning, and I loved being able to see it in glorious Blu-ray, fully restored, and getting to see that violence again. But it's violence. It's good violence. It's good. But yeah, loved watching The Burning again. I probably would like to watch this again soon, because I really enjoyed watching it on Blu-ray so much that I'm going to watch it again, probably in the next couple of weeks. That's how you know you really like a movie, when you can watch it and then watch it again so soon after watching it the first time. And then last but not least, which was the movie I watched today, The Green Room. So I went to the cinema to see this in a screen unseen, and I know I've said this in previous videos. I mean, you know you're watching an amazing movie when you look round about you in the cinema and literally every single person's sitting bolt upright because of a particular scene in it. And it's a bit like the Green Inferno, where there's one scene in that just churns your stomach. There's a scene in The Green Room that's the exact same. Poor Anton Yelchin's hand is all I'm going to say. Even when I was watching it today, because I watched it by myself, I got to that particular scene and I had to like distract myself. I was like, well, I'll just pour me some juice so that I don't have to watch that scene. I don't like scenes of arm breaks or like arms hanging off. It churns my stomach. My other half, on the other hand, because she works in healthcare, doesn't care when it comes to scenes like that. They don't bother. Scenes of vomit do. They don't bother me. But scenes of like blood and gore, arms snapped and I just don't do that. Can watch it, but it proper churns my stomach. And yeah, loved watching. I'm getting off topic. Loved watching Green Room again. It's still as good as the first time that I seen it. Amazing movie. It's actually making me want to revisit Blue Ruin, which is by the same guy. Because when I seen Blue Ruin, I thought it was good, but see now I can't actually remember a lot that happened in it. So it's making me want to revisit, which I think I'll pick up and watch. Maybe as part of the Halloween challenge. But Green Room's fantastic. It's basically about a punk band who go to a gig, which is like in a neo-Nazi place, see something they're not supposed to see, excuse me, choking on air, and end up locked in the green room, and it's them against the neo-Nazis, and it is quite violent in places. It makes sense on both sides, and what I do love about this movie is, although there is violence with dogs in it, they do portray the dogs as a victim as well, which I thought was really cleverly done. And I think this movie is great from beginning to start. It's got perfect casting. I mean, Patrick Stewart is the bad guy. You just don't see that coming. I like Anthony Yelchin. I think he's really good in this, and I think he's really great in the Fright Night remake as well, which is funny because the girl that's in this isn't Imogen Potts, I think that is. She's in Fright Night as well, the remake, so they obviously work very well together, or they did work very well together. But yeah, if you've never seen The Green Room, I definitely would recommend that you get a copy and watch it. It's fantastic. Don't eat your dinner when you're watching a particular scene in this, but yeah, that's my this week's Halloween challenge, and I'm looking forward to what I'm going to watch next. But as always, please let me know what you're watching in your Halloween challenge, because I know loads of people out there are doing it for the month of October. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and please like and subscribe. Leave any comments below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you and take care.